Sony's Portable produced tactical depth, narrative ambition, and mechanical complexity that modern games, even on vastly more powerful hardware, have somehow failed to match. All of these remain more engaging, more rewarding, and more respectful of player intelligence than most RPGs released in 2026. Wild Arms XF is the game that proves the hex grid tactical formula still has room for innovation when developers are willing to experiment. Released in 2007, this is an SRPG where manipulating the battlefield itself is more important than character positioning. The hex grid system uses terrain types that grant bonuses or penalties. Water hexes reduce fire damage. Wind hexes increase evasion. Certain hexes can be destroyed, transformed, or created through abilities. Understanding terrain manipulation is more important than understanding character stats. The class system lets characters equip different job classes mid-battle by using class change items. Swap from Sentinel to Excavator to gain digging abilities. Change to Sacred Slayer for holy damage. The flexibility creates tactical options that locked class systems can't offer. The puzzle-like mission design often has optimal solutions that aren't immediately obvious. Some maps reward aggressive play, others punish it. Finding the intended approach versus brute forcing through levels creates different satisfaction. The story follows a group trying to clear their leader's name and stop political corruption, and the writing is lighter than mainline Wild Arms entries. The tone is adventure-focused rather than tragic, which fits the portable format. Where Wild Arms XF loses players is the same place it gains dedicated fans. The emphasis on terrain manipulation over character building. Some find it fresh. Others find it tedious compared to traditional SRPG stat optimization. The difficulty spikes sharply. Early missions are manageable. Late-game maps demand perfect execution and deep system understanding. The game doesn't compromise on challenge, which alienates casual players but rewards those who master it. For SRPG fans tired of the same positioning tactics, Wild Arms XF offers something genuinely different. E7 is the entry that modernized Falcom's long-running action RPG series and proved that fast-paced combat and party systems could coexist on handhelds. Released in 2009, this is the game where Ys evolved from solo protagonist speedrunning to tactical party composition without losing the series' trademark responsiveness. The party system lets you control 3 characters simultaneously, swapping between them instantly mid-combat. Each character has distinct weapon types that match enemy weaknesses. Reading enemy armor types and swapping to the correct damage type becomes the core tactical loop. The skill system charges abilities through combat. Land hits to fill the skill gauge, then unleash special attacks with unique properties. Some skills have invincibility frames. Others juggle enemies or break guards. Learning which skills fit which situations rewards experimentation. Boss fights are pattern-based challenges that demand understanding attack telegraphs and timing dodges correctly. The flash guard and flash move systems reward perfect timing with brief invulnerability and damage bonuses. Mastering these creates flow states where difficult bosses become satisfying dances. The story follows Adel investigating earthquakes and ancient dragons, and the writing is straightforward adventure without pretension. The plot serves the gameplay rather than demanding hours of cutscenes between dungeons. The equipment system is simple. Find better gear, equip it, keep moving. The crafting system lets you enhance weapons using materials dropped by enemies, creating a resource loop that makes combat drops meaningful. The encounter rate is high, but combat is fast enough that battles don't disrupt pacing. Modern games would reduce encounters. E7 assumes you enjoy fighting and leans into that assumption. Valkyria Chronicles 2 takes the original's brilliant blend of turn-based strategy and third-person action and adapts it for portable play without losing what made the formula special. Released in 2010, this is a tactics game where positioning matters. Cover is destructible, and classes have roles that complement each other rather than competing for dominance. The Blitz system gives you command points to activate units. Select a soldier and you enter third-person control. Move them, aim manually, fire in real time. Enemy Overwatch triggers counterfire. Cover degrades under sustained attack. The blend of strategy and action creates tension that pure turn-based systems can't match. The class system expands significantly from the original. Scouts, shock troopers, lancers, engineers, each has specific battlefield roles. Advanced classes unlock through story progression, creating specializations that change tactical options. Building a balanced squad matters more than grinding individual units. The school setting shifts tone from the original's war story to anime high school drama, which divisive. The character writing leans heavily into archetypes: the rival, the shy genius, the cheerful optimist. Some find it charming. Others find it grating compared to the original's mature tone. The mission variety is impressive. Defense scenarios where waves attack your position. Escort missions protecting vulnerable units. Timed objectives where action economy determines success. The mechanical variety keeps the campaign from feeling repetitive. The multiplayer component adds cooperative and competitive modes that extend playtime significantly. Building squads specifically for PvP creates different optimization priorities than the campaign demands. Modern SRPGs rarely attempt the action strategy hybrid Valkyria Chronicles executes. The series' commitment to this unique system is why it remains distinctive. Trails in the Sky is the start of Falcom's interconnected JRPG saga, and its commitment to world building through NPC dialogue that changes after every story beat remains unmatched even by its own sequels. Released on PSP in 2011 in the West, this is a game where talking to every townsperson creates a living world rather than checking boxes for lore dumps. The Bracer system sends Estelle and Joshua on errands that start mundane, finding lost items, escorting travelers, and gradually reveal political conspiracies and personal stakes. The pacing is deliberately slow, which modern design would flag as a problem. Trails trust you'll appreciate the build-up. The Orbment system lets you customize character abilities through quartz combinations. Slotting elemental quartz grants magic spells, while stat quartz improve combat effectiveness. The grid-based slot system creates build variety without overwhelming complexity. The turn-based combat uses positioning and turn order manipulation strategically. Certain turns grant random bonuses, critical hits, HP recovery, 0 MP cost. Reading the turn order and timing actions to land on bonus turns adds tactical depth beyond menu selections. The relationship between Estelle and Joshua is the emotional core, and the game builds it carefully through small moments rather than dramatic reveals. Their bond feels earned because the writing invests in daily interactions. The cliffhanger ending is infamous for a reason. The story doesn't resolve. It escalates into sequel setup. Modern games would provide closure. Trails assumes you'll continue because the world earned your investment. NPCs having updated dialogue after every single story progression shows commitment to world building that modern RPGs with bigger budgets don't attempt. That detail is why the world feels alive. Star Ocean's Second Evolution is the enhanced PSP remake of one of the PS1's deepest RPGs, and the improvements make an already complex game even more mechanically rich. Released in 2008, this is the Star Ocean with 87 endings, dual protagonist structure, and a crafting system that could sustain its own game. The private action system lets you explore towns separately from your party, triggering character-specific events that affect relationships and determine endings. Choosing which party members to bring, which NPCs to interact with, and which dialogue options to select feeds into an affection system with staggering permutations. The item creation system lets characters develop crafting skills, cooking, writing, art, smithing. Mastering these systems produces items with tangible benefits. Finding optimal combinations and rare creations becomes in-game obsession for players who engage with it. The dual protagonist choice between Claude and Rena fundamentally changes the story. Different party members become available, different plot threads open, and the perspective on events shifts entirely. The replayability is structural rather than cosmetic. The real-time combat is chaotic but rewarding. Party AI handles allies while you control one character. Special attacks consume MP, but timing them correctly during combos increases effectiveness. The combat depth exceeds what the handheld presentation suggests. The skill system lets you allocate points to non-combat abilities. Pickpocketing, identification, music. These skills affect exploration, shopping, and side content in ways that create build variety beyond combat optimization. The enhanced voice acting and updated sprites improve on the PS1 original without changing the core systems. This is the definitive version of an already excellent game. Modern RPGs have cleaner interfaces and smoother combat, but few offer this much content and replayability. Phantasy Star Portable 2 is Sega's attempt to distill Phantasy Star Universe's online action RPG into a portable experience, and it works far better than it should. Released in 2009, this is a loot-driven action RPG where combat feels immediate, build variety is enormous, and the in-game loop rivals Monster Hunter for compulsive replayability. The combat is fast-paced action with RPG stats underneath. Melee, ranged, and magic playstyles all feel distinct. Combos flow naturally, and mastering weapon-specific attack strings creates skill expression that stat grinding can't replace. The class system lets you mix race and class combinations that create wildly different builds. Hunters excel at melee. Rangers use guns and traps. Forces cast techniques. Each class has subclasses with specialized abilities, and optimizing builds becomes in-game obsession. The loot system is generous and addictive. Enemies drop weapons with random stats and rare variants. Finding optimal rolls on legendary gear creates chase goals that sustain hundreds of hours. The crafting system lets you modify and upgrade equipment, adding another progression layer. The mission structure is perfect for portable play. Short encounters that can be completed in minutes. Longer boss fights that demand preparation and skill. The variety keeps the loop from feeling repetitive even after dozens of hours. The multiplayer infrastructure was the original draw, but the single-player content is substantial enough to justify the game independently. The story missions provide context, but the real game is grinding missions for rare drops. Where Phantasy Star Portable 2 shows its age is visual presentation. Character models are basic. Environments recycle frequently. The technical limitations show constantly. The loot loop and build variety overcome those limitations completely. This is one of the PSP's most replayable games. Hex's Force is Sting's 2009 RPG that almost nobody played, and it's one of the most mechanically interesting traditional JRPGs on the platform. This is a game with dual protagonist campaigns that mirror each other thematically, a weapon durability system that sounds terrible but works brilliantly, and turn-based combat that rewards understanding rather than grinding. The Force system makes weapon durability the core resource. Weapons break with use, but broken weapons generate force points used for abilities and magic. Managing when to let weapons break and when to preserve them creates resource tension every battle. It's a system modern design would reject as annoying, but creates tactical depth that HPMP systems can't match. The dual campaigns follow Cecilia and Levant through the same events from opposing perspectives. Cecilia serves the gods. Levant serves humanity. Their paths intersect, and playing both reveals the full narrative. The structure is ambitious for a game this small scale. The Ragnarok summons are earned through story progression and side content. Each summon has unique abilities and strategic uses. Building a collection and understanding when to deploy them adds another layer to combat. The difficulty is balanced carefully. Early game teaches systems gently. Late game demands mastery without becoming punishing. Optional bosses provide challenge for players who want it without gating story content. The art direction uses vibrant colors and detailed sprite work that makes the world feel more alive than the budget suggests. The character designs are distinct and memorable. Where Hex's force loses players is obscurity. Limited marketing meant almost nobody knew it existed. The dual campaign structure requires playing both sides to understand the story, which some find repetitive. For players willing to engage with the force system, this is one of the PSP's hidden gems.
Suru-senpai asked me to take you to school. Are you ready to go?
Persona 3 Portable is the version that proved the social sim formula could work on handhelds without sacrificing depth, and the different route adds perspective that the original never considered. Released in 2009, this is the Persona game where the themes of death and acceptance aren't subtext. They're the entire point, and the writing commits to that darkness in ways modern Persona has softened. The social link system balances dungeon crawling with relationship building, and the time management creates genuine tension. You can't max every social link in one playthrough. Choices about how to spend afternoons matter. The calendar system forces prioritization that games with infinite time lose entirely. The combat uses the press turn system where exploiting weaknesses grants extra actions, creating tactical loops that reward knowledge over grinding. Fusion mechanics let you build demons with specific skills, and optimal party composition requires understanding enemy patterns rather than just leveling up. Routes change the entire experience. Different social links, different romantic options, and shifts in tone that make scenes land differently. The initial route explores isolation and depression, and the other route adds warmth without losing the game's melancholic core. Tartarus, the procedurally generated dungeon you climb throughout the game, is repetitive by design, which reinforces the exhausting grind the story explores thematically. Modern design would add variety. P3P trusts that repetition serves the narrative. The Memento Mori theme permeates everything. Characters confront mortality, purpose, and what it means to live knowing death is inevitable. The ending earns its emotional weight because the game spent 80 hours building toward it.
Don't get careless. I summon you!
Crisis Core is the prequel that Final Fantasy VII needed and the action RPG system that Square should have refined instead of abandoned. Released in 2007, this is the game that makes Zack Fair's tragedy resonate, shows how Sephiroth's fall actually happened, and builds a combat system around the DMW slot machine that sounds absurd but somehow works. The digital mind wave system overlays a slot machine on combat. Matching symbols triggers limit breaks, summons, or level ups. The system is random but influenced by story context. Characters you've bonded with appear more frequently, making mechanical progression feel narratively integrated. It's weird, but makes every battle feel connected to the story. The Materia Fusion system lets you create custom materia by combining base spells with stat modifiers and status effects. Building optimal loadouts requires understanding fusion mechanics, but the experimentation is rewarding. You can break the game with smart fusion, which modern design would prevent. The mission structure works perfectly for portable play. Side missions are bite-sized encounters that reward exploration without demanding hour-long commitments. The main story missions are more involved, but designed with save points that respect handheld session length. Zack's personality carries the game. He's earnest, optimistic, and heroic in ways that feel genuine rather than performed. Watching him maintain that optimism as everything falls apart creates dramatic irony that players who know FF7's timeline feel constantly. The ending is inevitable tragedy, and the game builds toward it with full knowledge that you can't change what happens. Modern games would add a secret, save everyone ending. Crisis Core commits to the tragic outcome completely. The Reunion remake updated visuals, but changed combat in ways that lose the DMW's unique rhythm. The PSP original remains definitive. Jeanne d'Arc is Level 5's 2006 tactical RPG that reimagines Joan of Arc's story with anime aesthetics and armlets that grant transformation powers, and it's one of the most mechanically polished SRPGs ever made. This is a game where the core systems are so well designed that complexity never becomes obtrusiveness. The burning aura mechanic is brilliant. Defeat an enemy and your character enters a powered state that extends movement range and attack power. Chain kills to maintain the aura and sweep through enemy formations. The risk-reward of pushing forward for chain kills versus playing defensively creates tactical decisions every turn. The unified guard system lets adjacent allies share defensive bonuses, encouraging formation tactics. Clumping units together protects them, but makes them vulnerable to area attacks. Spreading them out reduces defense, but limits AoE damage. The tension between these approaches drives positioning strategy. The skill binding system uses gems slotted into equipment to grant abilities. Mix offensive skills, defensive passives, and support abilities to create specialized roles. The system is straightforward, but allows enough customization to make party composition meaningful. The story takes historical events and adds fantasy elements without making them feel contradictory. Jeanne receives divine armlets that transform her into a warrior capable of fighting demons. The tone balances anime drama with genuine stakes. Characters die, battles are lost, and victory costs. The difficulty curve is smooth. Early maps teach mechanics gently. Late-game battles demand mastery without feeling cheap. The optional content provides challenge without being required for story progression. Modern SRPGs either oversimplify for accessibility or bury mechanics under complexity. Jeanne d'Arc balances depth with clarity perfectly, creating engagement that both approaches lose. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite is the game that made Monster Hunter a global phenomenon, and it's still the purest expression of the series' core philosophy. Learn monster behavior, master your weapon, coordinate with allies, and earn every victory through skill. Released in 2008, this is Monster Hunter before quality of life improvements made it accessible. And that friction is what makes success feel earned. The weapon variety creates fundamentally different playstyles. Greatsword users calculate when to commit to slow, powerful swings. Dual blades players maintain aggressive pressure. Hammer mains hunt for knockout opportunities. Learning a weapon takes dozens of hours. Mastering the roster is a years-long project. The monster roster is enormous. Each creature has distinct behavioral patterns, attack tells, and environmental preferences. Studying monsters and learning when they're vulnerable versus when they'll counterattack is the actual game. Stats matter less than knowledge. The resource loop is perfectly balanced. Hunt monsters, carve materials, craft better equipment, hunt harder monsters. The progression feels earned because each upgrade requires specific monster parts that demand multiple hunts to acquire. The difficulty is punishing and fair. Monsters can kill you quickly. Time limits enforce urgency. Resources are finite. Bring too few healing items and you fail. Bring too many and you waste inventory space. The game demands preparation and execution. The multiplayer infrastructure was the original selling point. For players, coordinating during hunts created emergent teamwork that scripted co-op can't replicate. The community that formed around Freedom Unite sustained the series globally. Modern Monster Hunter games have smoother controls, better tutorials, and more forgiving systems. Freedom Unite has none of that, and the lack of those concessions is exactly what made it special. Tactics Ogre on PSP is the definitive version of Yasumi Matsuno's tactical masterpiece, and its 2011 remake demonstrates what happens when you refine a classic without compromising what made it special. This is a political tragedy wrapped in turn-based combat, where choices determine which factions you can access, which characters join you, and which ending you witness, and the game never warns you before crossing points of no return. The Charioteero system lets you rewind turns during battle, which sounds like it makes the game easier, but actually encourages experimentation. You can test strategies without replaying entire maps, which paradoxically makes the challenge more engaging rather than less. The world system allows post-game revisiting of story branches you didn't take, letting you see alternative paths without full replays. The class system is deep and balanced. Characters level individually, equipment matters mechanically, and battlefield positioning determines success more than raw stats. Terrain height affects damage and accuracy. Facing direction actually matters. The tactical density rivals anything modern RPGs offer. The story covers ethnic conflict on the island of Valeria, and the writing treats war crimes, civilian casualties, and moral compromise with seriousness that modern games claim to have, but rarely commit to. The law, chaos, and neutral routes aren't good/evil binaries. They're ideological commitments with terrible consequences regardless of choice. The translation is excellent. The voice acting is strong. The sprite work is beautifully detailed. The UI improvements over the original make complex systems accessible without dumbing them down. Modern tactical RPGs prioritize accessibility metrics over depth. Tactics Ogre assumes you'll learn or struggle, and that philosophy creates investment that tutorials destroy.